Hey there everybody, it's Nathan Kuhl with nathankuhlphoto.com, and now that we're heading into 2022, I want to talk about real estate photography marketing, how to start working toward getting clients, keeping clients, things that have changed. We're now 2 years into the pandemic, and a lot has changed over the last couple years. You know that the real estate market has changed, the photography marketing also has changed, and some of this might not be just quite as evident at first. So once we dig into a little bit more of this, we'll be able to see some insight that can maybe possibly guide you into getting more clients, keeping more clients, and of course then working toward a higher goal of making more money, and also while lowering your marketing budget. We have to remember that real estate photography in general is a different marketing approach than what you'd have with other genres of photography. So if you're doing weddings or you're doing portraits, you possibly have been doing that before, or you've been watching other videos, reading other books about marketing your photography for those genres. They don't necessarily apply to real estate photography because things are very unique with real estate photography. If you're doing weddings, you're doing portraits, a lot of times you're going to get one-off gigs, especially weddings. Hopefully they're one-off gigs for the married couple. But the problem that you have with real estate photography is that if you're constantly trying to get new clients, then something else is wrong. Real estate photography relies on repeat work. So this is more of a business-to-business type of photography venture. So you want to be able to get clients and keep them. And that's really important to when we go to marketing real estate photography. So when it comes to working out your plan for marketing your real estate photography, depending on where you are in your career, this will have some bearing on it, but it's a matter of what you have for your client inflow compared to what you have, what you're putting forward toward your effort. The first thing that a lot of photographers getting into real estate think, like they would for marketing any other genre of photography or products or other services, is I want to come up with an ad campaign. I want to come up with some Facebook marketing, and just thinking right off the bat that they want to pay all these various services to get as much exposure as they can, but that's one of the worst things in real estate photography that you can do. So first, let's take a look at the overall goal of real estate photography marketing over time, knowing that what we're after is more clients to get repeat work compared to other genres of photography. If we look at a graph of new client gigs versus existing client gigs and just over time, so time would be on our x-axis and the number of clients that we'd have, or the gigs that we'd have from them is on the y-axis. And we can see with this blue line that new client gigs, we have to start off with a lot of new client gigs. When we first start out, we're not really going to have existing client gigs, but over time we get more existing client gigs, and as that happens, there's somewhat of a drop-off than in new client gigs. Now, there are some plateaus which are to be expected because you're going to want to make sure that you can have an inflow of new clients because existing clients will drop off. The lifespan, the shelf life for a real estate client career, for an agent, for a broker, sometimes those are very short. A lot of real estate agents don't make it past 2 years. Some make it to 10 years, but even 15 years is very long for a real estate agent to be in the market. So there will always be some need to get new clients, but that really drops off as you get more existing clients. So the idea here is that you never give up on getting new clients, but as you start getting the existing clients coming back to you, then you can really start backing off on your marketing. So there's two issues here then. If we want that blue line and red line, we want them to overlap at some point, is that we want to make sure that we can get new clients. Now, I talk about the local lure, other techniques in my book on business techniques for real estate photography. And by the way, I've got links to all my books, other videos pertaining to this down in the description for this video. But the idea here is that you want to be able to initially, if you're at that point in your career doing real estate photography, you want to start out slow. And you don't want to get a lot of clients. You want to be able to test the waters first, and there's a reason for this. Unlike other genres of photography, your work doing real estate photography will be seen by every realtor in your area. that that house or property was listed for. This is different than if you were doing weddings or portraits, where there's a smaller circle, a smaller bubble of people that would see your work. You shoot a wedding and their friends, their family, they see that. You shoot in a metropolitan area and you could have thousands of realtors looking at your work the next day after it's listed. Now there's some good and there's some bad to this, so knowing how to take advantage of this is important. First, the bad portion of this. You don't want to have your work syndicated out to 1,000 realtors if you're not ready. So one of the mistakes that a lot of new real estate photographers make is they think, well, I just want to test the waters. I'm just going to shoot for a friend. The friend's a realtor, and they get some pictures out there. But if the pictures aren't yet ready, if you're not ready to really produce good quality work, other realtors are going to see that as well. It wasn't just your friend who was very forgiving, which is okay to some extent, but you have to make sure that it's acceptable enough to where somebody else may want to hire you. So that's why you start slow. The other reasons for starting slow is that you also don't want to let everybody know that you're at a certain quality level. You want to be able to grow and obtain a higher level of quality with your work as you progress. Now, the good part of this, though, is that when you're having all of your work syndicated on every single job that you do, every single house, every single condo, mobile home, mansion, castle, doesn't matter, every single job that you do for real estate photography being seen by thousands of realtors means that you don't have to advertise your work that you would normally if you were doing weddings, portraits, or other genres. In those other genres of photography, you might have to pay for advertisements to display your work in magazines, online someplace, really promote it through social media. But if all that you have to do is just go out and start shooting some properties, then you're automatically having your work syndicated and it's being marketed. If it stands out, I guarantee you that other agents will ask the listing agent who hired you, who is your photographer, because that work stood out above the best. And that's what you want to try to strive for before you really go out there, because then you can take advantage of that free marketing. Think about it this way. If you put an investment of your time to really get good, that's better than an investment in a whole slew of ads that will show that you're not ready. So take the investment of time first to prepare and get ready, and then you can start having your work seen by all these realtors. And that's when we start crossing over from those blue and red lines to where you start getting existing clients, and also new clients will start coming your way with less budget and less that you have to spend on your marketing campaign. Well, getting new clients could be problematic, it may seem difficult, and patience can run thin. There's a bigger problem that can rear its ugly head if you're not ready. Remember that what we want is we want reliability. So we want to be able to rely on existing clients to be able to get us work. We want a steady flow of work to be able to come in. We also want reliability that when we're working with good clients that are on time, they pay well, all that. If they're not, as I've talked about in other videos, talk about in the books, there's ways to deal with that, and those aren't the good clients that you're really after. So we're talking about good clients and the reliability of these good repeat clients. Now here's the problem, and I've seen this a lot of times. So I've done a lot of photography coaching, remote photography coaching, and through many sessions that people are asking me about the marketing strategy, one of the first things I see is that, and I point this out, they're not getting repeat clients. So it can be very tempting to say, well, I'm not getting work. I've tried, I've gone out there, I've shot for a few realtors, but I need to get more clients. Okay, well, then the question comes in, why do you need more clients? Well, I need more money. Well, why aren't your other clients calling you back? And this is key. So what I've suggested is that if you can look up a realtor that you've recently worked with, you've had no work for them for a while, see if they've had other listings. If they have, then they haven't used you for the services. And this is the issue. So immediately the go-to solution to this, which is completely wrong, is that, well, I need to lower my prices. Something is wrong. They're probably going to these other people because their prices are lower. Now, while that may happen from time to time, you have to remember that they hired you for the price you gave them originally. So price isn't likely the issue. So what else could it be? Could it be the quality of your work? Then compare your work to other listings that they've had done. Is your work really up to par? And this can be a tough pill to swallow, is that looking at your own work, is it really good enough? So this is where then I do a lot more photography coaching. People want to make sure that, am I really up to speed? And I'm not the only one, by the way, who does this. I'm not just selling my coaching services. Rich Baum does this. Brian Berkowitz does this. A lot of other pro photographers will do this. But as I've talked about before, know who you're getting your feedback from. Don't be posting your pictures on a Facebook group and expect to get good quality feedback for a lot of reasons. I've talked about this before. A lot of times in these social media groups, you'll be filled with socially inept people who have enough time to do nothing but sit there and criticize other people to try to bring themselves up and feel better about themselves because they're not the ones getting the work. So just take that with a grain of salt, take that with some caution. So you have to think about, though, if your work is good enough, if you really look at that work, hey, that's good. Price, once again, that shouldn't be an issue. If you think that it is, dump that client anyways. They're just price shopping. So, and move on. But the other thing could be, and this is an even tougher pill to swallow, is that if you're doing a whole lot of one-off gigs, you're not getting repeat clients, and those clients are using other photographers, they don't want to rehire you. And it may be you. It may be something about you. Whenever you're in a service industry, which real estate photography is service, you have to provide really good service. Now, that goes beyond the quality of your work. It goes beyond your fast turnaround. It goes to everything. The way that you talk with your clients, the way that you handle difficult situations that arise while you're on site, the ability to be the nicest person in the room, the most understanding, the most compassionate. Remember that you can tell everybody the worst news and the worst thing ever while you're smiling, but always have an alternative. So there's a lot of ways to handle situations. But you have to take a look at that and go, well, maybe am I addressing this wrong? Is there something? I've done coaching with a few photographers that do come to mind right off the bat where I could tell immediately it was going to be a very difficult session because I could tell right away that I would have to tell them that they have a personality issue and a problem that probably bleeds over into their work with real estate photography, dealing with clients. So this is something to bear in mind. But no matter what it is, whether you think it's the quality or whether it's your personality or whatever it is, if you're not getting repeat clients, that is what you have to dig into before you start going into other marketing. If you just start blowing out more marketing and try to reach everybody in your area, you're just going to show everybody in your area the problem that you have right now that's not making other agents hire you a second time. All of this becomes all the more important in 2022. Going through 2 years of a pandemic, a lot of people on edge, a big change throughout pricing in the real estate market, financial markets around the world being affected, supply chain issues that are affecting new construction. What does this mean for home buyers? What does this mean for home sellers? Especially now, we're facing a few different things. There's a few things that I'd like to point out. One, first off, the National Association of Realtors, here it was in December 2021, in one of their statistics showed, and this is very similar to other years, but more so a little bit more now, is that 95% of all potential home buyers used online tools. It's big. You have to realize that what you're producing is the house or the property or whatever it is that they're going to be looking at. Yes, the property does exist in real life, but you are bringing virtual reality in one way or another to the world so that they can see these properties. There isn't a seller out there who lives in their house who wants to have a slew of people come through that could possibly have the virus. They don't want to expose themselves or children or anybody else. So even though it may be just photos that you do for a client, that still means a lot if you can produce a high enough quality photo to try to get the deal over the phone. And this is important for some other statistics. When they looked at an average of how many houses potential buyers were looking in 2021, they found that on the average, each buyer was looking at about 8 homes. Almost half of those were searched only online. They were only viewed entirely online with no visits. And a lot of times this, if they have enough information, they will make an offer then. So by having standout work that really shows a property, that really sells a property, then you can make less work for your client, the selling agent, and also less work for the sellers themselves, less impact for everybody involved. And it's more than just photos at this point. This is an opportunity to then be able to upsell other services. And I've talked about this over the last couple of years through the pandemic of, the virtual tours and the videos. That's why I came out with the other books for those as well. So you can have step-by-step instructions to make those very quickly and at a very low cost and good enough to get those out for real estate. But there's been a misconception over the last couple of years that, well, houses were just selling so fast in 2021 that they'd be selling as soon as I had photos. True. But when you upsell, you show a couple things. One, you do provide a lot of other services, whether they do use your services or not, because that means that you're a full turnkey service, and agents want turnkey services, whether it's the photographer, whether it's the appraiser, the stager, whoever it is in this whole chain of events, and all the various vendors that have to come in to make the transaction happen. Turnkey is the best. The last thing they want to have is another one. Oh, I have to hire someone else to do virtual tours. Oh, I have to hire someone else to do video. So they want one turnkey service to be able to provide all those things. Secondly, a lot of realtors will use these other services to promote themselves to get more listings. This is how it usually goes. A seller will interview some real estate agents. When they ask them what they're going to do to sell their houses, they can show them, look what I do for photos, boom, and they show them online. This is what I do for photos. I also can promote it with these great videos. I can promote it with these great virtual tours. I can make these websites. All those things may never be used, but it helps that agent close the deal to get that listing. So one of the biggest reasons for people selling houses, and you may wonder, well, who's selling these houses? Who's buying these houses? I'll get to some of that in just a little bit and how it's going to really impact later in this year in 2022. But right now, a lot of these sellers are people who want to move closer to home. And this was once again through the statistics from the National Association of Realtors. So that's what they found. It's easier now because of all the remote work that you can do to be able to move closer to your family. So California, New York, some of the big metropolitan cities have the jobs where post-college graduates will be able to get their work. They can't stay necessarily near family if they want to pursue a career. They have to move out to Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Jose, Bay Area, whatever it is, out in just California alone. So now, if they can do remote work, well, they could sell their house and they could move back and live with family in Arizona, Oklahoma, wherever that may be. So being able to have this ability to work remotely through the pandemic, because of the pandemic, is allowing people to now sell and also buy. So that's spurring a whole new market that was never thought of before. Now, that's a temporary market. That also is a slight bubble, and that eventually those things will even out. That's just kind of a one-time thing. Now that the genie's out of the bottle and we can decide to live almost anywhere we want to, pandemic or not, that will eventually settle down, I'm sure. But we also have to realize in 2022, houses will probably stay on the market a little longer than what they were in 2021. So a few things are happening. Originally, there was the rushed buyer mentality that if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. Well, eventually you hit a plateau and a peak plateau in pricing where then people start backing off. Same thing happened in the car market when, as you know, if you've tried to buy a used car, a new car, you know that they're just jacking up the prices, and you go into a dealership and they'll admit it. We're just jacking up our prices because we can. So the housing market did the same thing. So there's a plateau though where all of a sudden then buyers start backing off, supply goes up, demand goes down. That'll probably still take a while, but there are some things happening this year already. So we know that in the United States, the Fed has already announced that it's going to be raising interest rates 3 times in 2022. Now that's to fight inflation. Another thing I'll get to in a second. World banks though have already, like the bank in, I think it's the Bank of England, already raised their rates in December 2021. So when we have these higher rates, then it's harder to buy a home. Less people can afford it with higher interest rates. So that could start putting houses on the market longer because there's not as many viable buyers. The other thing though, like I mentioned, there's inflation. So the reason for raising those interest rates is because right now there's a possibility of runaway inflation. Now that also could be temporary, but that then brings into a bubble. So no matter how you look at it, the inflation that's underway is going to affect the real estate market, and probably in the same manner. No matter how you look at it, it'll probably leave houses on the market longer. No matter what it is, the houses being on the market longer with all these things, there's a higher likelihood that they will stay on the market longer. These real estate agents will need more assets and better assets to make sure that they can sell the houses. And then as they sell houses, they can continue to get new clients for new listings. So we do have some differences going into 2022 for real estate photography marketing. In general, real estate photography marketing is very unique, but it is more so through the pandemic. So just to recap, a few things to really think about. One, if you are starting out, work slowly to get your clients. Work toward the idea that you are going to be getting repeat clients. And that means keeping your work standard very high and becoming the nicest person in the room with exceptional customer service. Look toward all the things that you can do to have the best remote possibilities, even though they might not be assets that are always purchased as add-ons by realtors for your virtual tours and videos and websites, things like that are remote solutions. Work towards refining those so that you can be the best in your area that offers these turnkey services so that realtors will know I can rely on you as a turnkey service provider. Keep an ear to the rail on what's happening with the market, because that will also tell you how things will be shifting. But either way, be prepared for houses to stay on the market longer, which will mean that you may have callbacks to come back and do the virtual tour that you didn't do on the initial shoot, or the video that you didn't do on the initial shoot because the realtor thought that houses were going to move very quickly. Things can always change over time. I always keep an ear to the rail, and I will try to keep you updated as best I can. If you did like this video, you want to see more like this, I got plenty more coming down the pike, obviously more than I have just on my real estate photography channel right now. You want to see more videos, just subscribe to this YouTube channel. It won't cost anything. And as soon as one of these videos is posted, you'll be the first to know. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care, be safe, and get out there and shoot something.